Hello and welcome to another episode of the Trash Talk Podcast. I'm gentlemen, they have Sergej. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing fine myself. And today we're going to talk about a topic that is very close to all of our hearts: anti-cheat. Either you love it or you hate it, or probably both. Let's just talk about it. I feel like the problem is, I feel like a lot of gamers have problems with anti-cheat, not because it prevents cheating necessarily, but for like all the other stuff that oftentimes tends to come with it. At the same time, I know that a lot of gamers are also not very happy when there is rampant cheating in online games, so, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly. And, probably we should specify, what kinds of anti-cheat are there and which ones are we talking about? Because
We're talking about all of them.
most, yeah. Not literally all of them, but, probably a good chunk. So, most of you are probably just familiar with the, really invasive stuff, like kernel-level anti-cheat and, stuff that gets you banned as soon as it detects, another process started in the background that could potentially be used for cheating. Yeah, that stuff just sucks. I do agree.
Yeah, I feel like that's the first thing that you think of. I think that happens because you don't really think about anti-cheat when it just works as intended, right? If there's no side effects and it just prevents cheating, the only reason why you would think about it is if you tried to cheat, because you don't really think about, even if you're playing a game, you don't usually think of, oh, there aren't any cheaters here, right? You just notice it if there is a cheating problem. Maybe if you frequently play a game that has a cheating problem and you play a different game that doesn't have one, maybe then you, consciously realize it, but usually, an absence of cheating is not something you'd notice. And conversely, the presence of anti-cheat, when it is just, a thing that quietly prevents cheating, is also not something you'd notice, unless it does stuff again, the kernel-level anti-cheat, which is basically a rootkit, or, the stuff where, depending on what program you have open in the background, it just bans you even if you didn't do anything malicious. There was a famous example of that a couple of years back. Also, somewhat recently, there was some driver updates that were causing people to get banned from certain games.
Right. Yes.
I think it was AMD who had. I want to say it was AMD. I don't recall, but one of the GPU manufacturers, which there are three of, added something that prevented. That was supposed to reduce latency issues, I think, and because they couldn't integrate it properly with some games, because they would have to have the developers working alongside them, and that's a whole thing. They tried to circumvent that, and then certain entities were there is code messing with the game that isn't supposed to. You are now banned. And so a bunch of people, I think it was in Counter-Strike, a bunch of people got banned off of the driver updates. I think most, if not all of those bans were since reversed, because obviously that was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it once again shows, right? I haven't heard anything bad about Counter-Strike and anti-cheat before, but that's the time when it comes up, right? And no one was blaming Counter-Strike in this case. They were blaming, again, I want to say it was AMD. It's going to be really annoying if I keep saying the wrong company over and over again. But I genuinely don't 100% recall, and I want to say it was AMD.
Yeah, I only briefly heard of the story. I actually completely forgot about this until you mentioned it just right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually thought of this topic mostly once I saw a couple anti-cheat implementations in indie games.
Oh.
And how they worked.
That's interesting.
So I when I suggested this topic, I completely did not think of those annoying kernel level anti-cheats that are super invasive or whatever. that make your game run slow for reasons.
Yeah, I think that's what most people think of though, because unless you actually like get into the technical side of the game, you don't really encounter anti-cheat that much, unless again it goes wrong, right? So that I think
Yeah.
I think in terms of cheat prevention, right? I feel like the first thing to do would be to offload as much as you can reasonably do to the server side. Like I'm not even sure if that would be considered anti-cheat in like the technical sense, but I recall writing a game for a college course where at first we had quite a bit of logic running client side, and I knew full well that was like a terrible idea from like an actual published game sense, but like it was a college project. No one was ever going to play it seriously. It was just to show off that we could make it. And honestly, I wasn't concerned about people cheating because it was just a handful of people from our group that weren't even like invested in winning. They were just invested in like showing off the project at the end. We did end up actually moving most of the server side anyways because there were some other adventures that you know how it is. We had to do a full rewrite basically because the code was a bit messy and there was a few problems here and there. And so
as expected,
we ended up doing like an almost complete rewrite, and so we ended up restructuring the project while we did that as well. And so a lot of stuff that like ended up being more reasonable by the end from like a organizational standpoint. But yeah, no, that to show, right, like if the client can tell you what is happening, then obviously it's not going to be hard to cheat, but just like manipulating by changing the client or like making your own client that just tells the server something different from what a non-modded client would tell it, right? And so if the server just believes whatever the client tells it, then obviously it's very easy to cheat.
Yes.
Now obviously there's a limit to how much
reminds me of a certain indie game I play or played. I don't play it that often anymore. I'm talking about Ace of Spades, this OG block shooter, basically like Minecraft with guns or whatever. And yeah, that one is built with the architecture where the server just trusts the client in most everything.
Yeah, I'm assuming that
the
there's a
whole
lot of cheating
protocol
then.
is designed around that. Yeah.
Go figure.
There are now like quite a lot of server-side plugins developed by the community that do detect a lot of the cheating stuff, but still, like every now and then, people find a new exploit, and it's annoying for a while.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a
also
limit
funny
to how much you can have a server do because of latency, right? So the more data is being sent back and forth, the harder like it gets to like run the game practically. And also, oftentimes some things have to be calculated on the server and the client, so that the client can actually like display it in time, while the server also needs to know what's happening. And so that is where sometimes you get like those things where like a player like will like zip to like a slightly different place when it wasn't what your client expected, and so you shoot them and like they were somewhere else. That thing. I think it has to do with something like that. So like there's a limit to how much you can do with just everything on the server side. But yeah, I think that's like a good first principle. I don't know if it's like even a specific anti-cheat. And I think you already hit on a second important topic here, right? When new exploits get found, you have to make new prevention. It's the same old thing that happens everywhere, where the bad guys get new tools and the good guys have to get new tools to defend against the new bad guy tools, right? Like that happens with
always, constantly,
with security of all kinds, right? Like cybersecurity, like physical security, right? Like there's a lot of like there's gonna be new tools, there's gonna be new ways to defend against it.
So, like, for example, one of the exploits that was there was that right after you send a shooting packet, you could send another one. So you shot 2 times. Like, visually it would look the same, but you would do double the damage.
Oh.
And it first of all, it took a while to discover this. Like, how this even happened, why do people do double damage sometimes? But yeah, once you know it, it's pretty easy to detect and prevent. You just like see, okay, duplicate packets for shooting. Like, remove that.
Yeah, but they're not like just literally duplicate packets, right? They have like whatever different IDs or whatever like you do with packets, because obviously, like, I don't know what protocol they use for communication, but I feel like
A custom one.
okay, because I was gonna say, right, the standard TCP protocol that most of the internet uses like already sends packets multiple times by default, I think, to make sure that like at least one shows up at the other end.
This is using UDP.
Okay. Yeah, okay. UDP sends only one packet and then gets a confirmation, I believe. Although if the confirmation gets lost, I believe it might be possible that it resends the packet. I forget how that works exactly. God damn it, it's been a while. Like, I've actually learned about TCP and UDP in college, right? Like, I should know this.
UDP by default just like sends the packet and doesn't care about like it receiving a return or anything. But this is like a custom protocol built on UDP that kind of sort of emulates TCP without all the latency drawbacks of just using TCP.
Yeah.
Because like TCP for each packet, it like does like a bunch of verifications, and like it just takes longer for the packets to arrive.
Which is bad for a game, obviously.
Yeah, especially like real-time games.
I mean, yeah, obviously, if you're playing a card game, it's not going to be as important when the packets arrive. But if you're playing like a first-person shooter or a third-person shooter, I mean, a shooter in general, like, it's kind of important that the timing is correct.
But also another game that I have recently played and did a bit of snooping around in the code for writing some mods is King of the Bridge. The little chess game that I showed you recently.
Yeah, isn't that a single-player game?
Yeah.
Why would you need anti-cheat in a single-player
game? But there's a leaderboard.
Oh, okay.
Because there's leaderboards for speedrunning.
Okay, fair enough. I was gonna say, like, anti-cheat in single-player games is kind of stupid. Because if a player wants to cheat, then why not, right? There's nothing wrong with cheating if you're not, like, hurting anyone else, right? Like, if in a multiplayer game you're hurting other people's play experience if you cheat. I mean, unless there's, like, sometimes there's, like, dedicated places that are, like, you know, like, anything goes, like, go wild, and, you know, in that case, fine. But, like, generally speaking, there's an assumption that you play by the rules. And so, right, it makes sense that you wouldn't allow cheating there. In single-player game, it doesn't really make sense, again, unless there's, like, an additional, like, multiplayer component, effectively, right? Like, a leaderboard. Whether it's in-game or out-of-game, right? Like, speedruns famously get faked all the time. And, you know, I mean, splicing is very common, but there's also other things like modifying games. And so, it does make sense that in that case, if there's a competition involved, for example, you wouldn't want to allow people to cheat. But if it's like a single player game you're just playing for yourself, then like, why not cheat? Right?
And so the anti-cheat there is like actually like super simple. If you submit a time that's like lower than a predefined time set by the developer, just puts you on a separate cheater leaderboard. And from then on, you see the real leaderboard with the cheating leaderboard like combined. So optimally, you don't even notice that you're on the cheater leaderboard.
Okay,
which I find hilarious.
There's actually a good reason why I don't like that, and that is that means that they assume they know what the fastest possible time is. First of all, which is a little bit difficult because obviously, if I know anything about speedrunning, then it's that speedrunners constantly break any expectations of what could possibly be the fastest time. Oftentimes because they find like new exploits or something, but like even every now and again, you like a speedrun will just be done faster than anyone thought possible by someone just like perfectly executing every single trick or something. Like where it's like, oh yeah. No one thought this was possible, but like actually like there's nothing new in this run. It's just like really good. So again, speedrunners are crazy.
Yeah.
in like a good way, but just never set assumptions about what they can do. Second of all, just because you didn't get like that fast of a time doesn't mean you're not cheating. So this can have false positives, at least theoretically, and a ton of false negatives. That's a terrible cheating prevention method.
I mean, in this case, it actually like works decently well. The time limit, I think, is set to all the cutscenes combined.
Okay, so
that you have to go through.
So it's literally not possible to go faster. Unless someone like discovers a sequence break or something.
Probably.
Which, I mean, this doesn't strike me as the kind of game where you could like easily find like a glitch, because it's not like
it's just chess.
It's not like a 3D overworld where you can like glitch through a wall somewhere to like skip a bunch of cutscenes. So
it's a super simple game. You walk on a bridge towards a troll, go through dialogue, play a chess game against him, do some more dialogue, walk to the end of the bridge. That's it.
Yeah, fair enough. You know what? That there isn't much you could do there, but still, right? Like you could still cheat and stay above that time, for example. I mean, especially if you know that. I can see why like having that in there is better than not having any cheating prevention. So like I get that, but at the same time, it's not going to be terribly effective.
The funny thing as well is that like I don't remember, like I think a week after the game launched, while modding, I looked into the cheating leaderboard and like saw that there was actually one person in there.
One person.
With an astounding time of 0 milliseconds.
They weren't even trying. Yeah, but I mean, just shave a couple of milliseconds off the actual record, as long as you stay above the number, like...
Yeah.
It's... As far as anti-cheat goes, I think this one is pretty underwhelming.
Yeah. How about we talk about like other cheating methods instead of just like setting a random time or like skipping all the cutscenes or whatever. Like obvious example would be like aimbots, right?
Oh yeah. That is, I wouldn't say the biggest form of cheating in FPS games. At the very least, the most prominent one, I would say.
I think so, yeah. And there's like also a wide range of like quality of aimbots and how they work.
Oh, it's aimbots and wall hacking. Those are the two. Like being able to see through walls.
Yeah.
Is the other one.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, those I think are like the big two for like most FPS games.
And similar things exist for like other games, like wall hacking might be replaced by like no fog or whatever for MOBAs.
Yeah, I know.
Similar games.
I think in Minecraft there's like
the whole map.
There's like an automatic. I think there's a cheat where you can automatically like hit people with a sword in like the perfect rate to like deal maximum damage, and like as soon as the player is within reach, it'll just like smack them down. There's like a bunch of like that kind of stuff you can do in other types of games as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Minecraft exploits are crazy.
I mean, yeah, there's like a bunch
mostly
of
because the game is just like so complex. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's like very trivial stuff that you can do in Minecraft that's like kind of, but that one came to mind because it's like basically an aimbot. Well, it auto attacks, but like it's like that's very similar. Whereas other ones like X-Ray is like, oh yeah, you literally can't do anything about that because the game allows custom resource packs, and you can just make like a bunch of blocks invisible, and then the blocks that you care about visible, and you can't really. I mean, there are mods because you can like toggle that on and off, and resource packs you have to like actively switch, but like it's not that hard.
Yep.
Also, Minecraft cheating is kind of annoying in as far as there has been more than one time when I've been kicked off of a modded server for flying. It's like there are mods in here that allow me to fly. You can't kick me for flying. I'm not even cheating. And like half of the time I set up the server, right? It's not like even I got someone else to blame. And the other half of the time you set up the server, basically. So
Yep. Man, I always forget this setting.
Yeah,
so
me
annoying.
It's like modern servers 101 was like, turn off the flying protections. You gotta be flying at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I find it funny how apparently like cheats also found a way around that where they use boats or something and then flying is okay.
Yep. Except when it's not, when you stand on a boat for too long.
Great. But like I have seen some like of the crazy Minecraft exploits where it's like, well, they prevented this and that, so we actually found a way around it. It's like, great.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Staying on topic with Minecraft, another fun example of a cheat that's like not as easy to detect, I think, maybe, is like a reach hack where you can hit stuff from much further away than you were supposed to.
I feel like that should be fairly easy to prevent because you just have to compare the player position to the position of the effect, right?
Well, you see, the way those work, like that is already there. But the way this exploit works is that you send a movement packet to like the maximum distance you can travel in one, like between two packets, and then hit the target.
I see.
The server executes the hit and teleports you back. Because you move too far, or you send a packet to move you back to this origin place. And like for you, visually nothing happens. Oof. The other players also don't see you move because it happens so fast, but you still are able to hit the person.
Yeah.
And you can extend that to like many, many blocks away.
I mean, there's a thing where like you could like do every instance of like a player moving back and forth and hitting in between. Like if you move back and forth too much and then hit in between, then that's almost certainly cheating, so we kick you. But then someone just happens to do it by chance, and I mean, it will probably have to be pixel perfect to trigger like an anti-cheat. But again, right, if like the tighter you make the requirements, the easier it is for the cheaters to get around because they can just like be slightly off parameter, and then the broader you go, the more likely you are to get false positives, right? So I think that's actually an interesting point here because that's not just Minecraft, right? That's anything, right? There are like very sophisticated aimbots, and if you're not checking for other programs running, then some of those aimbots are more or less undetectable because they act like a mouse input. And it's like, how do you then prevent like someone that's just really good at aiming from being accused of doing an aimbot? And so there are ways of preventing that. There's usually like it's the movement of the mouse sometimes too straight or whatever. Like there's like some things, but then there are literally programs to like jitter up your mouse with it a bit to look more human-like. So there's always something. There was a thing I thought about recently that I have seen some people call cheating. I wouldn't personally know much about that, but in MOBAs, they often have a minimap, right? And apparently, sometimes enemies can be seen on the minimap before you could see them like on the main screen. And so there was a monitor that had built-in AI features, and one of the things it could do is it could read a minimap and then give you indicators where the enemies were. Which, again, right, as far as I can tell, this isn't giving you any extra information, it's just laying it out more conveniently. I find that borderline in terms of whether or not that's cheating, but apparently it is generally considered cheating, and it's literally the monitor doing it, so there's not a single, it's not like software that's running on your PC, it's literally like something that's being processed on the monitor itself. There's literally no possible way of the game detecting that. And I mean, I guess the game could know what kind of a monitor is connected to. The data information is on your PC, and if it knows it's a monitor that has its capability, it could, I guess, prevent it that way. But then you could literally just go through an adapter or something that like replaces the monitor data and then
obfuscates this. Yeah.
So
another fun thing I saw like a couple years back actually is like where you have an AI that like, or like a robot arm or whatever that controls the mouse, and another thing that like films the like screen,
Yeah, it's like,
and it just like
how are you going
it's
to
like
detect
completely external.
this?
Yeah,
The mouse is being
you're-
physically moved. Like, what are you going to do about it? Yeah,
it's not even the monitor doing it because you cannot even detect it by the monitor like serial
yeah,
number or whatever.
I don't,
Auto.
I don't think I've seen. I've heard of that. I don't think I've actually seen it. The only one I have seen is the video of the robot arm clicking the captcha for "Are you a robot?" Which obviously funny internet meme, but also like not really that relevant. Like sure, that's not the kind of robots that the captcha is supposed to prevent.
Yeah.
Also, that wouldn't work if you had the robot operate the arm all the time, if it's like regular linear movements, because that's one of the things that... The reason why you can just click on the robot and it accepts it is because it like takes a bunch of telemetry data from your computer and like tries to figure out if the way you are behaving in the browser is human-like. And only if it doesn't detect that, or it has at least some suspicions that you're not a human, only then does it actually like ask you to click on the pictures, which, mind you, AI is literally better at than humans. Like,
Yep.
that's the funniest part, right? Like all of the like the recap just for like the scrambled words and like also the like image clicking ones I believe as well. Like AI is better than humans at it. I mean, part of that is because the whole part of captcha is to train AI to be good at those things.
Yep.
But it's like, what's the point of an anti-AI measure that an AI can solve more easily than a human?
It's funny. But also, on the topic of captchas, like trading bots. Or bots in general.
Okay, I don't know what you mean
do
specifically
tasks
by
for you.
trading. Oh, right. I think, yeah.
Yeah, just automatically trading on like markets in
Yes,
games.
so I was still mentally at
like
video games.
RPGs, yeah.
Oh, in games, okay. Yeah.
In games, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think it's considered cheating if you do it like on the free market.
Yeah, no, that's what I was like. Yeah, but what about trading bots? Yeah, no. Because I'm pretty sure like a lot of trading these days is automated.
Yeah.
Which adds more questions about like the legitimacy of the stock market as an institution, but like whatever.
Out the topic.
It's that thing where a bunch of robots are just spam texting each other and like you're seeing like this huge Twitter conversation and it's just like bots all the way down.
Yep. All bots. But yeah, auto trading, whatever, trading bots. Yeah, just like you could use captchas at one point to prevent that. Just like at regular intervals, make the user do a captcha if they exceed like a certain amount of trades or requests, packets. Nowadays, obviously, with AIs being better at captchas than humans, that's a bit difficult. So you'll likely have to go back to like older detection methods that are like maybe not as strict. You're not going to catch the bots 100% of the time, but like you will filter out all the obvious ones.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I don't know where exactly, I mean, I guess in MMOs is where we would use it, but I feel like, like, instead of saying, like, every couple of trades you need to make a capture, you just say, like, oh, there's a fixed limit, like, you can only make, like, 20 trades a day or whatever. Like, whatever is, like, reasonable for the game. It's like, if a human player, like, really wants to, like, mess with the trade system, then they can't either, right? Like, I don't care if it's a bot or not, just, like, put a limit on it, because why would you need to be able to do 100 trades or whatever? So I was like, just put a limit on it.
Yeah.
So sometimes
use
the anti-cheat measures are like not even like strictly speaking preventing the cheating. They're just like making it so that cheating isn't worth it. Or the impact of the cheating itself is so minimal that it doesn't really matter to the other players.
Mm-hmm. Another fun thing you could do is like check the activity. Like if the person is active, like I don't know, 24 hours. Like really every minute being spent in this trading screen, then the chances are high that that is not a person.
I mean, high, but it's. I mean, hey, listen, right? I've seen gamers do crazy things. Okay, like spending 24 hours straight trading is like fairly low on that list.
Even then, I think it's justified to like give the person a break.
Yeah, it's like you get a 1 week timeout. Like, get some sleep.
Yeah. Touch some grass.
That too.
Also, just like rate limits. Like, if you exceed the rate limit that's like reasonable, like way beyond reasonable, like that's gotta be a bot.
Yeah.
Or someone with like a really dubious network setup, I guess.
Yeah, I think generally, right, like setting limits is probably a good thing for a lot of things. Where, even if it isn't like 100% surefire way to prevent cheating, as I said, right, like the number of trades is limited. You said rate limits, right? Like it's like if there's only a certain amount of something that you'll probably need, then just don't allow for more. And then if someone is cheating, it's kind of similar in a way to the very first example that we had with the like time limit on the like troll chess game where like you can't get faster than the time because it's just not possible. Right? So it's like, oh yeah. If you're gonna cheat, the best you can do is this, right? Again, right, I don't think it's like the be all and end all, but if you limit the number of trades, if you put a cap on the amount of data you can put through, which I mean also just good for the servers. And so like, just put limits on things. Because a regular fair player is probably not gonna run into those limits. And so cheating becomes less worthwhile. And so I think that's also like generally like a good, like very simple anti-cheat measure where like there's no way to cheat around that, right? If there's a daily trade limit, if you have like a data cap, like it's like, oh yeah, you can't anymore. There's no like clever way around it. I mean, obviously then you get into the whole thing of like, oh yeah, but I can like use alt accounts for trading and then I can trade like in bigger bundles between those accounts and blah blah. There might be some way around it, but like in the more straightforward way. And obviously, if you have one player having a bunch of different accounts and interacting with each other, that's a separate offense anyway. So
yeah, but also harder to detect and also harder to set up.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly easy.
Already makes it harder.
Well, if you have like a bunch of characters trading and then like funneling the resources to one central character, it's actually very easy to detect because it's the same players always interacting with each other on a consistent basis. That's the kind of activity that's like very easy to detect. It's not guaranteeable that it's automated, but it should be fairly.
Like I wouldn't know how to detect that personally. Maybe some like graph theory stuff. No clue.
I mean, you would just have transaction histories, right? If like a player like trades with a certain other player like in amount equal to the trade limit every single day, then there's probably something going on, whether it's automated or collusion or something. I mean, it's like one of the big ways that Reddit goes against bots, right? They like see a bunch of accounts behaving similarly, and then they're like, hey, there's something up with these accounts. Like whether it is automated or not, we don't care. Like they are probably breaking the rules, and they just ban everyone. And I don't think they have like a lot of very sophisticated like bot detection, like strictest sense, but they have like network detection, which is just as effective in like doing like a lot of the like organized bot army stuff, like to prevent that just as easily.
Could be, yeah.
And I think something analogous to that could be done in video games as well. Do you have anything else specific you want to talk about?
Yeah, one quick thing, kind of related to this. What to do when you do detect cheating? Like, most obvious response is like, oh, yeah, just ban them, right? Like, kick them, whatever.
Sometimes it's worth figuring out, like, what they're doing, how they're doing it, if there's anyone else doing it, and trying to like actually observe it for a while before you like can ban more broadly.
Yep. And not only that, but also just wait, like mark the player as being cheating, and like do a regular ban wave where you just ban everyone who has been marked as a cheater.
Yeah.
Like do it like, I don't know, every month, every 3 months, every half year, whatever. Just like have a schedule so like you give as little information to the cheaters as possible.
Right, yeah, that's the other thing. So I was talking about gathering information for you, right? To like see patterns of behavior and stuff like that. You were talking about the exact opposite thing where like if the cheater like gets kicked the moment they do their cheating, like they know what was detected, right? So if they can play for a while and then get kicked, they might assume that the last thing they did was what was detected and thereby can then figure out not to be detected next time. And if you just ban at a certain time period, you just ban every cheater from like the last month, then it's impossible to tell what exactly got them away. Additionally, there's obviously the same idea that you mentioned also very early on, right? Like the cheater leaderboard. If you just for an MMO that wouldn't work because you have big servers, but like for a shooter, for example, you could just have matchmaking for like separate cheater lobbies. Has two advantages, right? First of all, you don't immediately tell the cheater necessarily that they're cheating. As a matter of fact, they might never. They probably will figure it out eventually, but they might not figure it out for a while, and similar to the other one. And also, it still prevents them from interacting with regular players, right? Because the problem with, like you said, like 3 months until you ban everyone, is like, that's a hell of a long time to have a bunch of cheaters running around.
Oh, yeah.
And
absolutely.
That's like not good for other players. So having separate lobbies, for example, gets around that problem. Obviously, if the cheaters figure out that they're in a cheater lobby, then they'll know that they've been caught. But it can have the similar effect to what you said with the delaying it, and simultaneously doesn't keep the cheaters around, which might be good. That actually kind of reminds me. There used to be a thing with like anti-piracy measures that wouldn't like disable the game, but they would like just randomly like, I think there was some games that would like randomly crash up like the 3rd level. There's other games that would like seriously debuff you, so that it was like almost impossible to beat the game. Which obviously then other people like challenge us out of like intentionally being it that way. But like there's like a bunch of those things where like they didn't like prevent you from playing the game altogether, and especially if they like change something later on in the game, like like players don't notice immediately that like, so like the cracked copy will get uploaded because they thought they cracked the game, and then only later when you later in the game you notice that actually something was wrong here. And then B, sometimes people will just ask online about like, hey, I got stuck on this place, like this and this is happening, and like, and then like they'll out themselves as cheaters, which is pirates in this case, which is like not really something that they go after most of the time, so it's like not really that useful, but still kind of funny. And obviously, piracy prevention and anti-cheat are like somewhat closely related in that sense, where both like the piracy prevention I just talked about has similar concepts as an anti-cheat, where you don't give it away immediately. And similarly, also the kernel level stuff, right? Kernel level anti-cheat and kernel level DRM are like very similar as well. Also, they can slow down the game to the point where sometimes people that bought a game legally will have it run slower than the cracked version that has removed the DRM. Which is great, and definitely not an incentive to pirate video games.
Absolutely not.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Fact of the week time.
Move on? Yes. So, I only recently learned of the Tongan castaways. Basically just like 6 teenage boys being stranded on an island for 15 months.
That's a while.
Yeah. And yeah, like every one of them survived. They were healthy after the fact when they were found. And once they had a fire going, they like never let it run out. So like the fire was constantly burning for like over a year straight.
Yeah, it's not
Which is
unreasonable. I mean, you'd
pretty
want
cool.
a big fire to be seen, and obviously also to probably like cook some food over or something, give you heat at the night. So yeah.
I don't think the fire was all that big.
Okay, fair enough.
Not sure if the smoke would have been visible or not. Probably not.
That I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably not. If it's a small fire and it's not like, if it's like using somewhat reasonable materials, then it shouldn't be like that much smoke, and presumably smoke like dissipates a bit as it goes up. Although oftentimes when you do see it, it does go up like a pillar. But again, right, like most fires,
Depends on
like once you get them
wind
really
and
burning,
stuff. Yeah.
don't smoke that much anyways. I mean, that makes sense, right? Because it's kind of tricky to start a fire, but it's like not that hard to keep a fire going, I suppose. Is the idea behind that?
Yeah.
So that's a fact that they kept the fire going for 15
That's
months?
my fact, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
A
few months.
So my fact of the week is about porn. More specifically, Texas passed a law, and I think a couple of other southern states as well, that require age verification on porn sites. And not just the classical I'm over 18 thing, but rather actual ID confirmation, which obviously not all porn sites are very comfortable with. And so
yeah,
some sites actually just start blocking Texans, while others did actually implement a verification system. I always find it funny when they're like, oh yeah, we're just going to put age verification to something, and then Pornhub is like, oh, we don't want your IDs. Just like, if you're in Texas, just don't. And so that led to Google searches of a bunch of things increasing in Texas. Now,
let me guess, VPNs.
How to watch porn in Texas is one of those. Free VPN is one of them. Pornhub alternatives, right? There's like a couple of just like sort of porn searches, but yeah, there are also VPN searches. And apparently, searches for VPNs were up over 5,000% in Texas after. Now, granted, I can kind of see that because there probably aren't that many people searching for VPNs on a regular basis, and like all of a sudden there's like a more active need for them. So I can see why that would spike, but it's still funny. I mean, there's a okay, here are search terms listed that were considered breakout search terms, which is more than 5,000% up, are how to access Pornhub in Texas, VPN, Pornhub VPN, Pornhub access, porn websites, and top porn sites. So yeah, there were 2 VPN related ones in there. And this article I have here also makes a mention that, interestingly enough, in the more conservative areas of Texas, search increases for porn-related searches were actually higher than in less conservative areas. Make of that what you will. So yeah, that is that fact of the week, which brings us to our halftime show. Oh, sorry, yeah.
On that topic, or on that note, I also wonder what the searches for VPNs look like in Russia when they like implemented like the VPN blocking stuff.
I don't know. I don't have the data for that in hand.
Interesting.
Yeah. Actually, weird fun fact: Russia is one of the few countries that you can't set most VPNs to. I mean, yeah. Makes sense, right? But it's like, why would you want to set your VPN to Russia to begin with? But yeah, no. Anyways,
because they block it.
Yeah. So we're doing Squirtle. New and improved Squirtle. I mean, functionally, if gameplay-wise, it's going to be very similar to how it used to look. But so we're starting with Laser, and then the other one that we always use is Tonic. We already hit a letter. So yeah, there's some minor changes. I don't think it was that relevant for the viewers, but yeah, our hidden hints are now even more subtle, and I can't click on those anymore. And I love this, right? I just gotta point this out. If I click on it once now, it gives me the ring, and if I click on it twice, it then gives me the filled out one, so that if I want to like put in the guess, I don't have to like double click before putting the guess if it's just a guess. Love that.
That is
Um,
quality of life.
it's an option you have to turn on in the settings if you want to use that. But yeah, there's like a bunch of new options, and most of them are cool. So,
Especially the very last one.
the one that I just pointed out with the
No. The last option on the options page.
that one is new.
The one at the very bottom.
That's
Yeah.
not a new option. Also, I now can no longer click. I turned it so that I can now no longer click on the hints. So I can actually click on the hints and still like just put in text. I don't accidentally hide them because I already auto hide all the ones that I don't want.
Yep.
So there's no reason to be able to manually hide them. So yeah, good stuff. We have 3 letters in the first row. We have 2 letters in the first column. It's not that much, but 3 in the first row seems reasonable.
Less
Especially
than we
because
usually get.
E and R, 3 is not that uncommon, but yeah. E and R both cannot go here either, which is very good. So that actually limits both of those to 3 spots respectively. T could go there, which makes me think it might want to go there. No N's in the grid. I was gonna suggest trend as the word for the first row, but given that there are no N's in the grid, that's not going to be a possibility. Also, no C's. It's probably less relevant in my mind, but
And there's still too many options open, I think.
yes. So what do we want to put in the third row and column? Neither can have an S, and obviously C's and N's are not in the grid, and otherwise we have no particularly useful information, except we could, I guess, try for maybe starting it off with an E or an R if you want to test for the first row, but that also cannot possibly fit in the column, and also those are not new letters. But I mean, we're probably going to have to reuse a vowel anyways. This is kind of a stupid idea. I think it's stupid. I was thinking eager. I mean, oh wait, is E?
I don't hate it
because it's like that, right? So that like obviously tests for this E, both of those that E hint, tests in both directions. It tests this R hint down here, and it tests this A hint here, this A hint there, and but yeah, I already pointed out the E hint. So yeah, it kind of tests a bunch of stuff. G's a new letter.
Honestly, I would probably prefer pager instead of eager. We're still basically
I see.
Testing for both E's, but now we're also testing for a new letter. Messages. I want to see the rough letter distribution.
Yeah, I think pager is better than wager, and rager isn't testing a new letter, so I think we're probably good with pager. I think that's the only 3 that come to mind that would definitely work. Pager, rager, and what did I say? Eager. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's. Whoa.
Oh.
Oh, I completely forgot about this E also being tested. Like, yeah, no, there was an E hint there. I was so focused on this E that I completely forgot about the other one. I mean, it really feels like it's wanting us to put an A there. I almost double-clicked. That's just a happen. I'll get used to not doing that. There's a P in the first row, which means there's now 4 letters in the first row. Yeah.
Yep.
And P does not go in the first column, which means that P, E, and R cannot go in this spot, but have to go somewhere in the row. I'm starting to really think that T goes there.
T, yeah.
Because
likely.
Out of the 4 letters that we know have to go there, 3 can't. So it's either the one letter that we don't know or the T. Wait, oh fuck, we don't have any new negative information about E's because we just hit 2 E's. We didn't actually get that much negative information at all or even that much positive information except for like the hits. Because we got so many hits. Okay, so well, I mean,
Another interesting situation with the first row, like the P cannot be obviously in the third spot, but if the T is accurate, the P very, very likely is not in the second spot either.
Yep.
So it has to be one of the last two.
So I was thinking, right? EA obviously works. I literally pointed out eager before, but EA something I probably works in some sense, but I can't think of anything right now that works. Whenever I have something that goes like E, like it always ends up just being a single E. Right, like edict, evict, or like illicit, illicit, that's an I. But like anything I could think of that has like the E something E is always just a regular E. So
I have one with 6 letters though. Easier.
Okay, so at the very least we know that it's possible. But
yeah,
in my mind, the E doesn't go there, is what I'm saying. I can't
very
substantiate
unlikely,
that,
yeah.
but in my mind, this would then has a good shot at being the R. Right? Rapid, for example. But it literally can't be rapid because it can't be P there.
Makes sense, yeah.
But just as an idea. And then I was gonna say ravine, but that has an E at the end. So then we still can put the P there. Words ending in P. Let's see. Step. Trap. Okay, yeah, so words ending in P possibility.
Trap, yeah.
So that leaves the P in a 50-50 as well as the E in a 50-50. I mean, the E obviously ending in E possible, but I like finally having a vowel to put there somewhere. Which, if we keep going with that train of thought, that leaves us with 2 spots for the P, and we have to find a letter that still works with that. And now we're getting into like a bit of a tricky territory, right? Because tread, that doesn't have a P in it.
Also no A's in this word.
That's interesting, actually. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, right, if you think about it, right, what can you do with this, right? And obviously, if you can't do anything with it, then that just proves that I went wrong somewhere, which is also useful information. But like, if you put TREP, then what does it leave us with, right? Because then we have to have what? Treep, trappa, treppy, trappo. I mean, trappa doesn't work, I would say. Right, like, that doesn't really leave us with much. So, by that logic, the P would have to go there. But then what? Triop? Trape? Well, it literally can't be trape. Troop? See, now I'm thinking it might not be like that. In which case, this one might not be the R. This might be the E. No, this can't be an R. Oh, this can't be an R. That's the piece of negative information that we found. That's very useful.
Oh, right.
So that limits the R to 2 spots already, because it literally can't be first, it can't be fourth, and it can't be fifth. So it can only be on second and fourth. I just tried second, and while I haven't like fully excluded that as a possibility, at least the way I thought this would go doesn't work. So I'm thinking R, P. I mean, it would have to be, right? If the okay, let's go back. We have 2 places that we can put the R. If we put it here, we already said TP doesn't work. PT works, TP doesn't. Can't go here So it would have to go here. Right? So if the R is here, which is a big if,
Yep.
then the P would have to be there. Which makes me think of a double vowel, right? Because what can go... I mean, unless there's two R's. But like, what, twerp?
H.
Thurp, okay? Thurp. Thurp? No, thurp is not a word. Okay, so if we're saying this isn't the E, then obviously this has to be the E. But because if we're saying this isn't the vowel, then it's not an E. So,
Yeah.
what, like, twerp? Twerp. Twerp. That works. On the one hand, I was going to say it's a bit colloquial, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong.
Question is if it's correct, but you'll figure that out.
Okay, if the twerp is correct, then we need to make something happen that has W-A something I something. Which seems a bit hard unless it's Wario. But you know, but like Via could make work, right? It could be like Vapid, but Wawi, Wari, Wati, Wazi, Wapi, Wazi, Wadi, Wafi, Wagi, Wahi, Wayi, Waki, Wali, Waxy, Waxy, Wah. I want to leave in the wah, then I forgot about the wah. Waxy. Waxier. Okay, so there are words that would work. It's just, like you said earlier, right? It's like, I can get you a 6-letter word. Waxier. As in more waxy. I mean, wavier. Right? Same idea. Wary, weighty, wazy, wapy, wazy, weighty, wafy, waggy, wahy, wagey, wakey. God damn it. I like this on some level, but I don't think I can make this work. In which case, we're saying maybe not a W. And then it's like, what did we say? Twerp. Therp. Therp. Clerp. So, if this isn't the W, if it isn't twerp, then the E goes there, assuming, again, the R. The R is the one assumption that we're hanging on because the P is basically guaranteed if the R is there. So then, what, right? Yep. I mean, I guess we can do the same thing again, right? Twerp. Terp. Tetcherp. Tzerp. Terp? Terp? No, that doesn't work anyways. Tzerp. Tzerp. Right, like, okay, don't work. We can't have a triple consonant at the end there. So it would have to be Tyorp, Terp with an I, Chirp. So unless twerp was correct and we were just missing the second column, I don't think the E can go there with the RP situation. By process of elimination, if we can't make TE something RP work and we can make T something ERP work, then that means that the R doesn't go there. That means the R goes here. which means that this almost certainly would have to be a vowel, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be an E, it could be an I. Or an O. Or a
Pipe
U.
or trope. Oh.
Well, let's see, what letters do we still need? Oh yeah, trope would work. Trope would work. And now we once again run into the problem that this can't be rapid because it
Be
can't be a P.
rabid.
A rabbit, as in
Yeah.
wild.
Yep.
Yeah, that works. Okay.
I think we almost ran out of positive hints.
Yeah, we're just missing the G and the S. So S in the first column, G in the third
Yeah.
column. G in the third column is interesting because obviously that only has two spots that it can go now, with the O and the E now being in there. I mean, G at the end is just very tempting. Although, does G... Okay, unlikely that we're just going to solve the entire group, but I just want to game plan this anyways, right? If we put a G there, right? EG is like a perfectly fine word ending. Now, DG is a bit tricky. Now, normally, my first thing is always to go to like edged or whatever, edger, right? Like whatever. Like, this can't be an E. It also can't be an A.
Yeah.
It would have to be a vowel, obviously. But like, odge, idge, udge. I mean, udge definitely, like, grudge, right? But like, udge in the beginning? Like, surely not. You get my point, right? I don't think we can make the G work in that spot. Which then, by elimination... right, I didn't hit that properly, I guess. Oh no, I hit the G first, and then okay. That was poor timing. Which puts G there. We can't make ogres work even if we use the RE spelling of ogres, because no R's. Or S's. Okay. No, but like, seriously, what? Because then, now, what can go after a G? Og is not a syllable in itself, or the very least is not a prefix. So, presumably, we need something that works with the G, meaning it would have to be a vowel, which is kind of hard to do, because we can't put an A there. And even, I mean, ogi, I don't know where that would have gone, but... So, if it's a vowel, it would have to be... I mean, U might make sense. I seems like more of a stretch, although IE does happen. And it's like... I mean, obviously R if we're going consonants, but that doesn't work because of the rules. So... I mean, I guess GL does generally work. But,
I was about to suggest that.
But ogle... Wait, to ogle is spelled with two G's, right?
I don't know.
Because otherwise it could be ogle.
Not sure.
Okay, I mean, even if we just hypothetically like put an L there really quickly, what is this letter? I guess is the other question, right? Like, because abler as in more able would make sense, but isn't allowed, right? So, again, this is one of those where I don't think we can put another consonant there. We can't put A or E in there. So, Eibler, Ubler, Obler. I'm starting to doubt that that's correct. Now, whether rabbit is wrong or OGL is wrong, hard to say. Although, again, my suggestion for OGL would have been ogled. I don't know if that is spelled correctly, but if it is ogled, then that would be a word. Again, assuming the spelling is correct, which rawit, ratted, razid, radded, raffid, ragid. Oh, rigid, but not ragid. Ooh. Rakid, ralid, raxid, ravid, ramid. Alternative, very radical idea.
Yeah.
Maybe, probably too radical, but
Yeah.
right, because ER is definitely an ending, right? Like in phobia, for example, and ear. I mean, not only ear, but also like earn, right? So like early. Early would, I think, be like a genuinely like legitimate possible solution for this.
Yep.
Right, and then that then might fix this one again as doable. Which then raises the question of like, is this then doable? But because surely we'd still need a consonant right here. And I don't think it's rabia. Actually, wait, if I put an A there, then the whole point of like what I just did was kind of undermined. But right, so it can't be O, it can't be I. Can it be E? I think it can be E. Can be E or U. Rupia, Rumia, Rudia, Rufia, Rugia. Lugia. Why does that sound like something? Probably because of Pokemon Lugia. Okay, Rukia. That sounds like a name. Sounds like a Japanese name. Rubia. Well, it sounds like more Ruby, but Rumia, Ruvia, Ruria, Rutia, Ruzia, Okay. Revia, Retia, Rezia, Rapia. That sounds like rapier, but not quite. Rezia, Redia, Refia, Regia. Sounds almost like something. Except that DGs are not allowed, and I was thinking of like region, like original stuff. Rehia, Rekia, Relia, Rexia. No. I don't think Rexia as a standalone word is a thing, is it? There's anorexia, but just Rexia? I also don't seem to be able to hear you.
What?
Oh, no, it's fine. Maybe you just weren't talking loud enough for the Discord gating.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Revia, Remia. Because Rexia, gives us what? Oxler. Okay, fair enough. And I think we were probably doing pretty well with Rabbit. That just runs into this problem again. But I mean, again, Rabbit was always the one that I was more confident in. And obviously, like, early is now based on pretty much nothing, so I'm not gonna keep that in. Right now, the G I was pretty confident about, though, if Rabbit is correct. Which is admittedly still quite an if. Must over, yeah. No, I'm now thinking octagon. I don't think ogt is something. Plus BTER would also be questionable. Ogs. Og. No, we're not doing two plosives after one another. Ogs. I learned that loud. Og. No. Og. Och. God damn it. GH could make a h sound, but I don't think that's the one in this case. Also, that would almost certainly make it Dutch. Like Van Gogh.
On another note, how about we solve the S? Because I think it can only really go
Second.
in one spot.
Right here.
What? TS?
Oh, TS. I somehow didn't realize that. Wait, no, end. End? No, end wouldn't work with a D.
Yeah.
Psi.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had thought about it, and I was like, Sag speaks to me more than Psi, but obviously is like a bit of a tough sell. You're right about that. Not impossible, mind you, but just not very likely. The Tsungara conundrum. That's a Doctor Who episode, don't worry about it. Civ?
Yeah, it could be. Is it spelled that way?
Fucking hell. Yes, it's spelled that way. I'm fairly certain.
It looks kind of correct to me, yeah.
So, do we just want to try peeve? I feel like that's way too many E's, but... Because I'm pretty sure peeve is actually, like, that. So...
Wouldn't try peeve, maybe? Let's see if we can substitute some of these first two E's.
Well, brave is a word, but brave I don't think is.
I mean, could you just try it? Maybe it is. Probably not, but yeah. Doesn't cost us anything.
Prove double O, isn't it? To prove? Yeah. Yeah, proof is definitely double O, as in the proof. So prove, I'm pretty sure it's double O. So that wouldn't work.
No, it's like the verb is single O.
So This?
I think.
That sounds
Yeah.
wrong. That looks wrong. That's right. Okay, fair enough. So yeah, peeve still works, mind you, because obviously, as a matter of fact,
Yeah.
with those letters, I'm fairly certain it's peeve, which also means that this is either rage or ager, which makes this a bit of a rager. I mean, it would literally work is the worst part about this, right? Like rager.
Yeah.
Erd. And then Civ. We have all but one letter of Civ. I didn't even realize that because by putting the VE in there, we also like solved that VE, which is one of those that like didn't occur to me in the moment. But yeah, no, so we could have actually tried for Civ as well. But might have actually been more.
Also, first row R is confirmed now.
Because it can't go in the other
Cannot
spot
go in
anymore
any
because
other
it's
spot.
Peter. Yeah. Right, the other spots were literally forbidden. Okay, cool. Wait, does that lock in anything else? No, it doesn't. Okay, that's unfortunate. I mean, the T was always very likely there. Trope is like a very good pick.
Okay, one interesting thing. We do need to have an L
Somewhere in the grid.
in the grid. Yeah,
Yeah.
except first row or column.
I was gonna put it there, right? Like we talked about that.
Yeah. Just like another confirmation that it's possibly right.
Okay. Oh fuck! Right, we sort of run into the same problem here, where if the B is correct, which we have literally nothing telling us it is, but we just kind of liked it as an idea, then this one would have to have an I, a U, or an can't be O. I or U, Eibler or Ubler, neither of which are words that I would be familiar with. So I'm still thinking that either the L or the G is wrong, which is that whole thing again. So the B, right? Now I don't think there was anything saying this has to be a D, right? We just kind of made that up. Cool.
We have not even tested a D yet.
Yeah. How about trust?
Like that.
Euler, Utler, as in butler, but without a. Okay, never mind. Usler, Upler, Usler, Udler, Udler, Uffler, no, Ugler, Ugler, no, no, Uller, Uller, Euler, Axler, Axler, Ubler, Umler. I don't like any of those. If it is trust, which granted, the R is like completely made up. the one I trust, right? Like the R, well, it's sort of made up, right? Because one of those two has to be R, but I just decided that both of them could be. I didn't even think that Reggie was particularly likely. I just put it in because it made some sense, and then I just built around that in ways that made sense. And there's also tryst, I believe, like a more like a Shakespearean kind of term for like a brief romance or something. A tryst, I believe that's.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Rings a bell.
which obviously then opens up some new options for what the central role could be, because as I said, I couldn't make it work with a U really. Ivler, Irler, Itler, Isler, Isler, Ipler, Eiler. Wait, I mean, isle is a word. I think it may or may not be short for island. Actually, it's not short for island, becomes a French eel. But so this could maybe be a word. Like it has a sensible root. I'm just not sure if the exact word is sensible.
Yeah, like someone coming from the Isles.
I suppose it could also be an idler, someone who idles.
Bro.
Which I'm more certain is a word, and plus, I mean, raisin would not have been a good word because A, there's no N's, and B, there's TN is a bad combination. Radio. Fuck me! No O's in the column for those that were wondering. That would have been so perfect!
It's also likely not radix, because TX is probably not something words start with.
Yeah, no, because that's the thing, right? TO could have totally been something, right? Like, it could have totally been, I don't know. Yeah. But, the toad, that sounds like a word. I don't know, I can get away with it. So, what was I saying? Igler, Ifler, Iller, as in more ill, as in sicker.
Wait, how is radii spelled? Is it just two
double
I's? I think so.
I mean, radius, right? So radii. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Radius, radii. Yeah, no. That checks out. I think. I don't love it, but I think that might be correct. I was saying Ixler, Ivler, Ibler, Imler. Yeah, so. So radii. Tired, obviously. Except it's not allowed. Timed. I mean, don't ask me how Oglem works, but
Oglem.
Timed. Let's see. Tiled would definitely work. You wanted an L after all. I mean, again, right? Like, don't ask me how that works with a column, but tiled, timed, yeah, those are the two. I think I want to try tiled. Maybe that gives us a bunch of new letters. Well, not new letters for the most part. L would be the only one of those, but even if the L is wrong, we can still probably confirm this L. Right, so I think tiled is just going to be very useful for information. Okay, so that's good, right? Like, we are like fairly certain that the rest of the script is somehow correct.
Which is a surprise. So yeah, radii. Crazy.
Okay, one sec. No. Never mind. I was gonna do the switch over with the G and like actually try the G at the bottom, but Taijt does probably not work. No, I was gonna say like right like something like might make sense, but huh. So what? Let's see. Rows or columns?
Do not think it matters.
Then it's columns, obviously, because it's rows, obviously, because we don't know what the central column says. Trope works, except that the other R is wrong.
Okay.
Which makes this a wager, obviously. Because the twist still works, you see. Idler, and I didn't need to type in that R. Tied it, obviously, yeah, I know. We could have guessed it. We could have got it with one fewer guess. Is the thing, right? If instead of idler,
yeah,
I would have typed in idled,
yeah,
we would have gotten ogled, and well, no, definitely because there has to be a D in the column, right? And tied it.
Right. No.
Yeah, so we have trope, wager, idler, sieve, tided, twist, radii, ogled, I guess, ogled, peeve, and erd.
Yep.
Let me quickly do the old define ogled, just to make sure that like that is simple past tense participle of ogle. Great, yeah, thank you. To look, stare at, yeah, it's ogle. It's just ogle. I had assumed that was spelled with double G because otherwise I would have pronounced it ogle from the spelling. But okay, fair enough. So yeah, I actually knew all those words, just didn't know what the spelling for one of them. So yeah, dude. I mean, it was somewhat satisfying when it came together. I just like there was like two letters. I also did the thing once again where like I like guessed one letter was wrong, but like somehow that like you just switch it out and it works. And because it was actually like quite fortuitous. I don't want to call it genius because I had no idea, of course, that I went for rows. And if I thought a little bit more about like not just finishing the grid but doing it in the smart way, I could have even done it with one fewer guess.
Yeah.
Which was spectacular because we would have had 7 guesses remaining. Right now the counter says 6, and you start with 8. Right, so like, damn,
would have been really good.
Despite the fact that it took us a while, we almost had a really good round. Which then brings us to the second.
That's the power of laser and tonic.
Yeah, and also about the power of our minds and like combining letters or whatever. It's
sure.
I think it's one of those games that is like kind of uniquely suited to the English language in a way. I mean, not only because it's 555, right? So like doing it in German. I mean, you can literally do it on this website in German, but it's 555. That doesn't feel very, you know. But also like English, because of its pronunciation inconsistencies, I think makes it harder to try to like brute force like if you're like missing 2 letters because you have no idea what they're pronounced like. Now, granted, German has like the EI and AI and CH and SCH, and like there are a couple of things where like you can have inconsistent pronunciation.
They're like fairly consistent.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like if you have the full word, you probably
like
know
almost all the time. Yeah.
I think the only thing that can fuck you up in German is like if you don't know where the syllables separate sometimes. There are some cases where like if this is 2 syllables, then it's pronounced differently than if it were 1 syllable. But otherwise, it's very consistent. But which I think makes it probably easier to like guess the words.
think so.
I'm assuming it would be similar in Swedish. I'm pretty sure it would be the same in Spanish as well. And you would assume that it might also be in Portuguese, which is the other option.
Actually, maybe not in Swedish.
Okay.
Swedish has some like funky stuff with like sometimes S's being pronounced as sh. Same with K's being sometimes pronounced as sh.
Okay. Huh.
Maybe there's a rule behind it. Haven't figured it out yet.
Well, second topic is good questions to ask. What's something that absolutely everyone in the entire world can agree on?
I think there is such a thing.
I was gonna, like, that was my first thought, and then my second thought was gonna be something, I was gonna be like, oh yeah, the sky's blue, whatever, but like, you know for a fact that that's not gonna work.
No.
And so, then I was gonna be like, well, one thing that we can all agree on is that there's nothing that we all agree on, and then I was like, no, there's gonna be some people that are gonna say that there's something that's universally agreed upon, even if they're wrong, right? So,
yeah.
Something exists.
I don't think people can agree on that even.
But cogito ergo est, right? Like, I think therefore something exists.
Well, yeah, and that is like there are philosophers challenging exactly that as well.
Goddamn philosophers. Okay, yeah, no, that's it. I think that's about as much knowledge as we're gonna get out of this question. What country is the strangest from your cultural standpoint? That's it. I mean, I feel like we're all always a bit biased by a cultural standpoint, but this one explicitly the strangest. That's interesting because the strangest doesn't even necessarily mean the most different, right? It just means the strangest.
Yeah.
I almost want to say the US. It seems like a bit of a
kind of, yeah.
But because, you know, my cultural standpoint, right, like, comes from Germany. And Western nations tend to be fairly similar in a lot of ways, right? Mm-hmm. And so, the fact that it is like a rich, Western, industrialized, Western, educated, industrialized, rich, democratic country, democratic, is kind of the whole educated. Okay, sorry, I'm done. It's like the whole point of why, like, a lot of the weird things about the US stand out so much, right? Like, the fact, like, that people can't afford, like, basic healthcare. And stuff that, like, it's real weird.
Guns.
Because, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Right? Like, because if someone in, I'm going to offend no matter which country I pick it right now, but if someone in Zimbabwe can't afford healthcare, right? I don't know. I mean, it's probably easier than the US, frankly, but, like, I wouldn't be shocked, right? Because, I mean, first of all, I don't know that much about Zimbabwe. Yeah. And second of all, right, it's like, okay, like, it's somewhere in, like, sub-Saharan Africa, right? Like, we don't associate those countries with wealth. It's not that unlikely. But the literal richest country in the world? I feel like there are a lot of countries that are different, and there are a lot of countries that are, I guess, like, set down that way, but, like, the US is the one that really shouldn't be all that different to us, and yet, whenever they are, it, like, really stands out.
Yeah. Extremely so.
Oh, second answer, the Vatican. I feel like the Vatican is just, like, an objectively weird country. Like,
I didn't even think of that, but yes.
It's like a single-digit number of square kilometers somewhere in the middle of Rome. Like, I think it's the only country in the world that's landlocked, not only by a single country, which that happens occasionally, but by a single city.
Yeah.
It's like, it's surrounded entirely by Rome. There's, like, a population of, like, 50. The leader of this country is democratically elected by bishops for life. Right? Like, being democratically elected for life is just, like, generally, like, a weird concept. And, I mean, obviously, and even not all the bishops even are citizens of the Vatican. As a matter of fact, most of them aren't. Right? So, and I think there might be citizens of the Vatican that aren't bishops. I'm not 100% sure about that. But, right, so, like, The entire
Yeah.
system of how the Vatican functions, and the fact that it is somehow considered a nation, is really weird.
So weird.
I think like the Vatican is
Yeah.
one of those like objectively weird countries.
Mm-hmm. I fully agree with that.
I mean, I think a lot of smaller countries are like a little bit weird, right? Like Andorra has like a similar thing where it's like, they have two co-princes, one of whom is also a church official, and the other one is also elected, but not by the Andorrans, but by the French! Because the French president also doubles as one of the co-princes of Andorra because of like historical treaties and whatever. It's like, that's weird, but I think it's still less weird than the Pope, right? So like there's that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Although the fact that it's that one of your country's heads of state is elected by a different country is also still kind of whack. I mean, I guess Switzerland's another one where it's like they're like very close by, they're very similar, but also like a lot of their like political structure is like different. But I don't think it's that
aware of
strange.
that.
Yeah, Switzerland. I mean, they have a lot of direct democracy, right? There's a lot more stuff that like individual like laws basically get voted on by citizens. They are very loosely federated compared to a lot of other countries around, so that the canton level still has a lot of power. It's also a bit weird because there's like 4 different languages spoken there, although that's not entirely unusual across European countries. It is a bit unusual from a German standpoint, although there are arguably more than 4 languages spoken in Germany, but there's only one official language. I mean, there are probably more than 4 languages spoken in Switzerland, but there are 4 official languages.
Yeah.
I think their presidency is actually like a council of like 7 people, and the actual like presidency is like rotated on like a 2-month basis or something. There's like a lot of countries, like if you get into like the political structures, are a bit weird. But again, right, like I don't think Switzerland is as weird as the Vatican.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think in terms of like, I think in terms of countries like universally weird, the Vatican, and I think from like a weird country. Oh wait, strange, right? So strange was the question. So from the perspective of another weird country, I think the US also being a weird country is kind of strange that they have healthcare issues and like gun violence and whatnot. Weird in this case meaning Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. It's a good acronym. It's memorable. So yeah,
Sure.
I think Vatican and the US are probably like the 2 answers I'm going to give for very different reasons. I mean, I guess the electoral system in the US is also kind of weird, especially for the presidency, but I mean, I guess the congressional one is pretty much exact same as the UK, so that's not that weird, comparatively speaking, even though I kind of find it weird, although Germany sort of also has that. Anyways. We have single member constituencies as well. Just we also have the party list system on top of it, and the party list system ends up being more important. So it's kind of weird that we still have the other system. But I'm not going to say that Germany is a strange country from a German cultural standpoint, because that would be a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the US has a lot of weirdness about it. I mean, also, like, similar to what I said about Switzerland, right? Like, a lot more power in the hands of the states. Less than when it was founded, the country. But the US also, like, still more loosely federalized. And now Germany isn't, like, the most tightly federalized country either, but, like, comparatively speaking, we're still, like, a lot more centralized. So yeah, there's a lot of things I could say about the US. I mean, it's just, like, the fact that it's huge. There's a lot of people living there. But I mean, that also applies to other countries. Oh god, I always hate this question. What's the funniest word in English language?
Can think of them on the spot.
Gobbledygook. I mean, it's supposed to mean nonsense. It's nonsense. I don't know. There's like, English has a bunch of funny words, and obviously I'm not going to be able to come up with any of the like really funny ones from the top of my head. That's always the problem.
Yeah.
Let's do one more. What's the funniest word in... no, that's somebody I just read. What's some insider knowledge that only people in your line of work have?
Everything is barely functioning.
That...
Held by glue code.
The funny thing is, right, besides the code part, That is like pretty much universally true, though. No, it's a thing where I've heard people from different industries say pretty much the exact same thing. Right? Like, I mean, we recently learned how airplanes are like maybe not quite as up to, like, they still statistically very safe, right? But like, Boeing is definitely cutting corners in places where they shouldn't. Also, please don't kill me. But well, did you hear about the whistleblower that was like testifying against Boeing, and then after his first day of testimony, like shot himself in the head, apparently, despite the fact that he supposedly had no suicidal ideation beforehand. So that's weird.
Yikes.
What was that? Right. So yeah, like the whole like things are not as orderly as they seem is actually like true for a lot of industries. Like if you look more into it, it's actually more chaotic than you think. Yeah, no, I get that. I like so Sergej's a programmer. That's his area of expertise.
And I guess you are kind of as well.
Yeah, I mean,
you're in computer science.
Yeah, I'm a college student studying computer science. I mean, yeah, the computer science stuff is basically. I mean, the thing is, I don't have any like direct industry experience, so I mean, most of my computer science knowledge is like more theoretical, which I mean, there's not as much like insider knowledge in that sense. I mean, I feel like this is more personal experience almost than expertise, but like computers are like more magic than we'd like to admit. Like in theory, they're like supposed to be like very orderly, but I swear to God, I've had so many problems with electronics and especially computers where like you do the exact same thing the exact same way twice and it produces different results, right? Like it shouldn't.
Yes.
Like reproduction is like such a So yeah, computers basically magic. And sometimes you just have to accept that things just don't work, and it's a whole thing where there's like this like comment about like where it's like don't remove this comment otherwise the code breaks. Like comment shouldn't affect how the code works. It's like
Yep.
Like no, I don't know why, but like it's I guess in a similar sense to what you said, right? A lot of standards are like very cobbled together. Or like the way we use the IP standard isn't entirely how it was designed to function. Because we need so
yeah.
Initially, the one that I'm thinking of, there might have been some other changes, but the one I'm thinking of is originally the idea was that so most people probably know like the classic IP, right? Like your local IPs would look something like 192.168.0.1 is usually your router in your local network. Doesn't have to be, but usually is. I think we have one that was at top 100 rather than top 1, but anyways, not the point.
Yeah.
And so some part of that is the network, and some part of that is the local machine. I believe in this case, it's usually 192.168.0 is the network, and then the last block identifies the specific device within that network. And the component which of that defines the network and which of the specific device that you're going to differs. And originally, the way it was designed is just that depending on what the first couple digits were, you could then determine like how much of that is prefix and how much of that is subnet and how much of that is like specific IP. Well, it was later decided that maybe to be able to have more IPs, actually, it would be good if you could determine how much of the IP is the prefix. Now, the IP protocol doesn't have a field for that. So they just repurposed a different one. Because they needed to make sure that the IP packets were still compatible with older hardware. And software, for that matter.
On that note as well, we should have switched away from IPv4, which is like the standard, like 4 sections separated by dots. Like decades ago. We've run out of IPs.
Yeah. I mean,
That's why you have...
We already don't really use IPs the way they're supposed to, right? Because whenever you like go to one of those websites that shows your IP address, that's showing the IP address of your router within the internet. your actual individual computer does not have an IP address on the internet. Like, it always just goes to the router, and that then like figures out which computer it's supposed to go to.
And sometimes and oftentimes nowadays it's even worse. Because if it's your router, you can like port forward. So like you can tell your router, okay, if someone like sends a packet to this port, forward this to this PC, so you can like host your own server on your computer locally. Not have to rent anything.
Yeah, 25565
on the cloud. Yeah. But nowadays, oftentimes, because we have so few IPs, internet service providers don't have enough IPs to give everyone, like each household, each router, its own IP. So they have their own router where your router goes through another router, and that one only has one IP.
Yeah.
So you might be sharing an IP with like a dozen or so households.
So the point being,
just crazy.
IPv4, kind of terrible for a number of reasons, and we're already not even close to using it the way it was intended, but we're somehow making it work. And I'm not saying that because like that's a unique thing about IP, but rather because that's like how everything in computer science works. There is still a date in the Excel calendar that does not exist, just so that you have backwards compatibility with old spreadsheets.
Yep.
Which consequently also breaks any new spreadsheet that tries to go over that date and tries to do calculations with it, because there's just one extra date that never existed. Because, like, the very first version of Excel, they just, like, had an error in its calendar list, because dates are complicated and sometimes leap years don't happen. There's a pattern to that, but then also historically we used to use different date formats and blah, blah. And they just happened to, in the database of, like, which dates exist, they just happened to accidentally be 29th of February for a year that wasn't actually a leap year. And that one is still in Excel to this day, just to make sure that every single spreadsheet from back then still works. And there's so much stuff because of backwards compatibility, and that's, I think, the big one that was sent out to me. Backwards compatibility. Like, it always creates so much, like, I mean, it's
problems, yeah.
It's tech debt, right, basically. Where you end up having all of these legacy issues that are so round, just so that there's this whole, in the whole XKCD, right, like, please enable the spacebar heating again, right? Where like every bug is a part of someone's use case or whatever. There's so much stuff that, mostly because of backwards compatibility is what I'm thinking about, like works in like weird ways just so to make that work. And that's also like why a lot of like the whole thing where like every Windows is just built on the previous Windows, which I mean that's not even entirely necessary to that degree that they do it. But where like you have like a settings menu and you have the old control panel and like
horrible.
Like, but it's that whole thing, right? Like backwards compatibility and new tech being built on top of old tech. It's like very prevalent and creates a lot of weirdness.
Yeah, like you cannot create a folder or file named com, like com1 in Windows. Just you can't because of backwards compatibility. Because that's from back when Windows didn't even have folders. Wasn't even Windows at that time, it was DOS.
Right, yeah, because your brand back into Windows 11 is basically just fancy DOS.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally DOS with Windows.
For the communication port on the computer. You could access it. And so to keep backwards compatibility with programs that ran originally on DOS, you cannot name a folder com. Which is funny.
Like, I get it, but oh god damn it.
And like coming back to IPs, like there is a new standard, IPv6, IP version 6. It's been around forever. And most of the internet still just does not work with IPv6. Just like, even if you personally wanted to switch to IPv6, you would not be able to use the internet. It's wild.
I mean, that's kind of the thing that I was talking about almost, right? But it's like, the whole thing about backwards compatibility and new systems being built on old systems, which is basically the same thing to a degree, like creates all of these weird situations where, like, I mean, it's a whole thing where, like, Japan stopped using floppy disks like last year, I think, in their like official government like stuff. Where it's like, I think there are still trains some places that need floppies to work. Right there used to be this plane that had a bug where, like, you had to just restart.
German military still uses floppies, I think.
Yeah, I think the US used to do it for their nuclear codes up until also like 5 years ago or something. So like it's that thing where, like, old technology is like still like used places and thereby needs to still be supported everywhere, and like that whole thing I think is something that people don't really realize all that much. I mean, obviously every now and again you have the headline where, like, oh yeah, this and this agency still uses floppies. That's like a very popular one, but
and then you realize floppy shredders are still being made, new ones specifically for those types of organizations.
I mean, yeah, they're still building new Windows 98 compatible computers as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a thing, and I think that's one of those things that people don't realize that is like in the tech industry at large. I don't think you have to like literally work there, but you definitely. I mean, obviously, I think there are very few things where you literally have to work there, unless you're working for like a CIA kind of agency. Anything that is interesting about your work, you can just share with people. So obviously, like, none of that information is like secret. But yeah, I think it's like, unless you are like advanced into tech, I think a lot of those things you don't really realize about, like, just like how like just patched together everything is, which I guess builds on what you said. Right? Where it's like,
that reminds me a bit, like, this like sales phrase, like military grade like security or whatever.
What was it? I think
like, it sounds fancy, right?
Yeah, I think there was a joke in the military where they say, and remember, all of your equipment was made by the lowest bidder.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how military contracts are given away. I mean, that's how all government contracts are given away, basically. Which is also a question. Yeah, no, I saw some military grade locks a while back, and apparently those are like even worse than most regular master locks, which is like actually saying something. Oh yeah, by the way, master locks are terrible. Just like in case anyone was wondering. What was it? Because a master key is a key that opens every lock, and master lock is a lock that opens every key. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I think even I, with my, like, I don't know, like, our experience of like lock picking, can like pick a master lock in like a second.
I still remember that one time when I like semi-jokingly offered to give you a paperclip to like potentially pick a lock for I don't know, for like a, I don't know what exactly, but and you like turned me down because you said you wouldn't need it, and you did end up needing one.
Yeah.
To like unlock some chessboards or something. Yeah.
Yep.
Not really relevant to what we're talking about. But yeah, no, I mean, the fact that the internet works is still like a miracle.
It really is.
I mean, the fact that any tech works, quite frankly. Sorry, we could be on this all day, probably talking about just like how like crappy tech is and how it still like somehow functions. But
might as well make it a standalone topic at some point.
That's not a terrible idea. Let's talk about your song of the week.
Right. Wait, what is my song of the week? Oh yeah, my song of the week is config.sys by Master Boot Record.
Well, isn't that fitting? I mean, I get what's going for, right? It's like computer sounds, I think it sound like computer sounds that are still very rhythmic. I have mixed feelings about this because of like the sort of I was gonna say low poly, like the very more like artificial electronic, like slightly grating sound of it. This is one of those that I feel like I would either really appreciate after a while, or like that would really get on my nerves because of like just again the like artificial sounds of it all.
Mm-hmm. I personally quite like it. I don't like a lot of the other songs off from Master Boot Record, but this one I do really like.
Yeah, I mean, I will have to give a listen to the full song, and then I can probably, and then probably then I will have to listen to it a couple more times, and then I'll have to like a real opinion.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about this?
No, that's it.
My song of the week is the deserts come later. My song of the week is Moon Age Daydream by David Bowie.
Good song.
When I picked it up as song of the week, you know what I realized? I feel like I haven't had Bowie songs as songs of the week often enough. I mean, I've had one like somewhat recently, which is like obviously skews it a little bit, but I feel like I have barely done it. And like Bowie has a lot of really good songs. Maybe not quite as many as some other artists that I've had a lot, but like damn.
It would be interesting to like keep statistics on this.
On songs of the week?
Yeah.
Yeah, but at this point I would have to go back through way too much to figure it out exactly. I mean, this is episode 353. Yeah, no thank you. Anyways, I believe that brings us with the Trash Talk podcast to a close. If you want to see more dislike, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like. If you want to see more dislikes in the future, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you have something to say, leave a comment or join us. Our link is in the description below. Sergej.
That's it.
That's it.